Hello everyone, it is me, GamePenguin21, and today we're going to have a pretty long one today as a kind of refresher and a detox from the amount of salt that I gave you for the showcases and things like that. To be fair, I've had this video in the backlog for a little bit, and I know that you've seen some other people cover it. Sneaky Cacti and Moment of Sanity. By the way, speaking of Moment of Sanity, I had a little bit of a bit part in one of his latest videos on a person by the name of Raven Productions. I will probably link that in the description, as long with his channel. Go and check him out. He's a good guy, friend of the channel, like him. But what are we talking about today? Well, we're talking about easy modes in games, yet again. But not just like for Elden Ring, just seemingly in general, which is somehow worse than talking about it just specifically for one game. Which, again, to me, makes no sense, and a lot of the same arguments you could put for, say, Elden Ring, you can put for a bunch of other fucking types of games. But of course, in doing so, I also have to mention that I am very close. I'm getting extremely close, like 1 or 2 away. And by the time this video uploads, maybe I do have the 1K subscribers that I am so desiring. If that's the case, thank you all so much for all of your support. You are all doing mighty fine, and I love all of you. Of course, also, I have to announce that I am releasing, probably within this week, the next album of my songs, that being For the Gamers. For the Gamers is this week. I came up with the name before I actually had to come up with this video idea. But with that being said, For the Gamers should be coming out probably either Wednesday of this week or sometime at the end of the week this specific June. So watch the Bandcamp, watch everything else. With that being said, I think that'll do it for the shill bit. So let's get into, apparently, why every game should be easy for, I guess, skill issue reasons. You'll see what I mean. Let's get started.
There are people in the world who play video games on the highest level of difficulty, and I do not understand this. I'm not a gamer, but that doesn't keep me from having strongly held opinions about video games, and one of those opinions is this: video games should be easy.
As someone who is a gamer and who does play video games, I don't necessarily agree with this. I agree with it on some level, though. While some games I do think deserve to be a little bit easier, it's not all games. Some games are very evenly balanced. For example, say Elden Ring, or for the video you're probably seeing in the background, is the finals, which I think are fairly balanced. There are some weapons that work better in certain situations than others, but no weapon feels underpowered. However, for, say, Elden Ring, I think that's pretty well balanced as well, and it doesn't necessarily require an easy mode. You just have to put the work in order to actually, make that work and function better. Same thing with Osu. It's very simple, very not technically challenging, but very fast. Again, I will basically introduce these concepts now so you can understand them throughout the rest of the video. Most games developed, as I've come to understand them, under 3 basic principles, that being movement, mechanical understanding, and speed. All you really need to know is that if you look at literally every game and break them down into the most simplest parts that you can, those three pillars are like the basis for literally every video game, despite how some might look versus some might not. It's, again, you'll understand what I mean. Let's continue.
Almost every video game I've ever played, because I'm not a gamer, but I have played a video game or 2 in my time, and almost every video game I've ever played has had a difficulty setting. I don't even remember the last time I played a video game on anything other than the easiest setting. Why are those other difficulty settings even there?
I also love how he prefaces most of this beginning introduction and says, I'm not a gamer, but I think all video games should be easy. Really selling your point there.
Everyone's different. I realize that. Tastes vary. So I can't truthfully say that people who want difficult video games are wrong. All I can say is, I don't get it. I've had it explained to me. I understand it on an intellectual level, but I don't get it. Once I asked a friend of mine who plays a lot of video games what they get out of playing games that are hard to beat, and they told me, I like the challenge. And I said, oh, I get that. You're way too invested in video games.
I mean, I could say the same thing for the movie collection behind you. You seem way too invested in movies. Why are you spending your money and time to watch them? Or why are you spending your money and time to, have an interest in the hobbies that you also have outside of that? You can't be invested in your own hobby or, want to spend a lot of time to try to understand what makes that hobby fun or what makes that hobby tick. Again, as someone who is a gamer and as someone who does do marketing and graphic design and actually has done some modding for video games, it's a good hobby to get into because there's a lot of methods for which you can enter into the gaming hobby. Just feels weird to kind of say that video games need to be easy for the sake of your specific skill issue.
You play video games on a higher level of difficulty because you like the challenge. You know what I do when I feel like a challenge? I lead my life. I'm not telling you my life is exceptionally challenging, by the way. It's not. I'm just a massive wuss. Some things in life are unavoidably hard. There's nothing you can do to make them easier. You just have to endure the best you can. But if there is a way to make something easier, I'd like it to be as easy as possible, please. Especially if the something in question is something as frivolous as a video game.
I love this mentality that he has where he basically says, there are challenges in life that, they are exceptionally hard and you can't make them any easier. Pull up your bootstraps and do it. But if I can make it easier, I would. I think that everyone can at least relate to that on some level. But the way that he's speaking about it in this terms, it feels like he's both speaking from a very boomer type mindset and a very millennial type mindset. That is, if the challenge is there, do the challenge. But if there's an easier path, do the easier path. Like, what if the easier path goes around and takes twice as long? Or what if the easier path isn't as easy as you initially thought and it's actually way, way harder and you should have taken the harder path to begin with? I think that in this context, challenging yourself to overcome these challenges and overcome these things, at least in the terms of video games, where there is a very, not only low barrier to entry, but also low, threat type level that you have within yourself or within the actual confines of a video game, and then overcoming that via, understanding that you can do it if you set your mind to the specific things. Don't you think that that is a good lesson to take away? That even despite all the challenges and stuff that you had been facing, you understand mechanically and you understand that you can overcome these challenges because you had already done and put in the work for a different challenge. Does that not sound like a good positive enforcement of that?
Before all you righteously indignant gamers come at me, accusing me of shitting on video games as a medium, that's not what I'm doing. I understand why you might be upset. If you thought that's what I was doing, you love an art form that isn't widely respected or taken seriously. Hey, I'm a pro wrestling fan, okay? I get it. I know that video games can be a medium for serious, intelligent, emotionally involving, socially relevant, and thematically rich storytelling. I'm not arguing otherwise. All I'm saying is, if I play your video game with the beautifully written story on the highest difficulty setting, I'm probably not going to make it to your impeccably crafted and deeply resonant ending. If a story is intellectually or emotionally challenging, I can do that. I'm all about that. But if it's technically challenging, fuck that shit. Who wants to watch a movie where you can't get to the next scene unless you're able to push the right buttons in the right order fast enough? A lot of people, apparently, but have I mentioned yet that I don't get it?
I mean, just because you don't derive, pleasure in the challenges that you put yourself through, or pleasure in the challenges of challenging yourself and overcoming that aspect of what the challenge was asking of you and raising that skills that you have of the 3 skills that I mentioned before, doesn't mean that everyone else thinks the exact same way. Again, to go back to what I mentioned with those 3 pillars, just really quickly, just so you understand what I'm talking about here. The 3 pillars that I said originally were movement, mechanical understanding / technical understanding, and speed. Now, those 3 are really easy to explain, but they break down into 2 different parts. There's an IRL component and a virtual component. The virtual component obviously refers to the video game part. The IRL component refers to how the inputs of the player influences the game around them. Movement is very simple. The movement of your hands and what buttons you know how to press and how fast you can press those buttons, hence speed as well being its own separate category, is determined by your skill level and your understanding of how the controls work and how the actual game mechanics of the game works. Mechanical understanding. So those three usually tend to work in harmony whenever you're playing or engaging in any video game. Not every medium has this same sort of thing. Video games are special in that regards because they require all three, whereas, say, a movie only really requires maybe one of those, and that is mainly mechanical understanding. And even still, mechanical understanding only breaks down in the sense of that you can break down the story in your head. So just because you don't understand the mechanical understanding, the movement, or the speed of, say, any video game other than, like, say, on the easiest difficulty, and don't want to challenge yourself to improve those three aspects, why do all games have to come down to your specific level for you to have fun in that context? Why can't you just let the people who want the harder difficulties there just have the harder difficulties and not complain about them?
Earlier, I said that even though I'm not a gamer, I have played a video game or two in my time. In recent years, most of the games I've played have been mobile games, and I have two of them currently downloaded on my phone. One is a game called Flow Free, which is a puzzle game where you connect the same color dots on a board. The other is a collection of solitaire games, which I use mostly to play free cell. Know what these two games have in common? They're both easy as shit. Occasionally there will be a flow-free board that takes me 2 or 3 tries to solve, but that's about as tough as it gets. I have yet to play a free cell game on anything other than easy mode, and guess what? I've never lost. I have a perfect record on my free cell game. I'm not bragging. Bragging about how good I am at a video game would be a very silly thing to do, even if I didn't make winning the game as easy as possible.
On easy mode, to be very frank there. I do also find it funny how he's flexing earlier that he has a perfect record, but he has to stipulate that, you know, it's on easy mode, which is not as impressive because mobile games, in that context, at least for Flow Free, as I may or may not understand it, are more or less for spatial understanding and mechanical understanding and stuff like that. But here's the difference of where mechanical understanding and the understanding of games in general tends to come in. I don't understand solitaire. I think that solitaire is fucking difficult, and I think that solitaire fucking sucks as a game because there is no way that you can really challenge yourself outside of, say, just trying to do it yourself. And I will never play solitaire because I don't get the mechanics of solitaire. You know what I do when I don't understand the mechanics or the deep understanding of what a game is? I don't play it because that's what you just have to do. Again, solitaire to me just... I know that I'm using this as a thing, and I know that some people will be like, oh, well, you don't understand it. You're like a weirdo. It's like, yeah, but I understand chess, and I've played a lot of chess games. I understand Connect 4, and I can play a lot of Connect 4 games. I understand fucking Uno, and that's much more difficult in mechanical understanding than fucking solitaire, which is literally just matching colors and suits and stuff. So, yes, absolutely. To you, those games, that game right there, the whole solitaire thing, that's not, that's really, like, the way that it, like, you know what I mean. Again, everyone understands the games and mechanics differently. And if you don't like a game because you don't understand the game and you don't want to rise to that challenge of that particular game, you don't have to play it. And again, I'm not out here complaining about how hard solitaire is, despite my actual, like, rant about it. It's more of just using that as an example, saying, like, I don't understand solitaire. I'm not going to play solitaire. But again, it's more of like to use it as an example rather than to go off on a rant on it. I don't really care that much.
I'm just saying, being able to win the game is one of the main reasons I enjoy playing the game.
That's not always true. I've lost games and had fun at the same time. Isn't the video point of an actual video game to, you know, entertain you rather than you just winning it and it handing you a participation trophy for whatever reason? I've lost games and had way more fun losing those games than I have ever had winning specific games. Just happens to come with the territory of video games.
Remember like 20 years ago when Sudoku puzzles suddenly got really popular here in the US? When my local paper started printing a daily Sudoku in the puzzle section, I tried it out. I was interested. I've always been pretty good at crossword puzzles, and it's a similar premise, only with numbers. I haven't attempted a Sudoku in, let's see, I guess it would be about 20 years. Know why? Because I suck at them. They're too fucking hard. Math puzzles? What was I thinking? My brain can't do that shit. I was an English major, for Christ's sake.
Okay. And that explains why you don't like Sudoku and why you like crosswords. Because with crosswords, you actually flex the knowledge that you understand, i.e., your English major degree, whereas someone like the math could understand, maybe a Sudoku puzzle a little bit better. And I like how he says, oh, there's math in this game in Sudoku. No, it's just about spatial understanding. To basically break down to anyone who is under the age of, say, 37, what a Sudoku is one of those grids that has a bunch of numbers in it. And to put it very, very simply, the rules are that you have to put one number in each column, row, and square. So this grid is broken up into more grids with 0 through 9 as the integers. So you need to place a number so that way it doesn't intersect with any other number in the row, in the column, or in the same square, which tends to get very tricky as you move on from there. So quite interesting.
So I stopped. I went back to crossword puzzles. When Wordle came out a few years ago, I played that. I still play it occasionally. I don't always get it, but most of the time I do. If I didn't, I wouldn't play it either because... Okay, let me tell you something about me. There's another video game that I play every now and then. Doom 2. Classic first-person shooter, right? When I was a kid and it first came out, I played it all the time. I loved it. These days, Doom 2 is one of the games you can find in the Internet Archive's arcade section. And sometimes, if I find myself with some free time and I want to just have some mindless fun, I load Doom 2, turn down the game's music and sound effects, and put on some music of my own, and I play Doom 2 right there in my web browser and have a great time for however long it takes until I get bored with it, usually between half an hour and an hour.
Who the hell turns down the music of Doom 2? Doesn't Doom 2 have like one of the best soundtracks?
Not only do I play Doom 2 on the easiest skill level, I believe that would be the I'm too young to die setting, I load that fucker up with cheat codes. And now that I mention it, that's another thing about video games I don't get. Why are there cheat codes? Why do you need to know the secret handshake to activate certain options? Why isn't this stuff just checkboxes in the settings menu? God mode? Yes, please. Check. Infinite ammo? Don't mind if I do. Check. Sometimes, if I don't feel like Doom 2, I'll play Wolfenstein 3D instead, which is also available to stream on Internet Archive. Makes for a nice change of pace. Maybe I don't feel like killing demons. Maybe I feel like killing Nazis. Same deal as Doom, though. I make it as easy to play as possible. The easier it is, the more fun it is. How does it make any sense to make killing Nazis more difficult?
That is your opinion, and that is the opinion that I will literally dismantle right now. To basically go back on some of his points, the reason why things like God mode and things like infinite ammo actually exist, or at least existed in terms of game development, is that those are meant to test specific edge case scenarios, so that way you can test a specific feature of a game to see what would happen because of it. And normally, those are not necessarily left in the game, but they are left in the game in certain aspects, and that does not include every game. Now, again, these can also fall under things like dev tools or a debug type menu. Both of these are, again, development tools meant to influence the code directly of the game. Now, he will talk about GameShark in a little bit, and I will talk about that more there, but GameShark is not dev tools to make that distinction very well. Those are actually cheats, and it utilizes the code of, say, the games, it looks for specific code within the games and shows you, hey, and then like tricks the game into giving you those things. It gives you literally an unfair advantage in it. That's why that they are literally banned at the highest levels of play whenever you talk about those types of things. It gives you literally an unfair advantage in that context, hence why they're called cheat codes. You are cheating in that. It's no different in some regards than, say, doping in a sport, or to say, to use a different example, I guess, when you draw a specific card but you put that card under the actual deck in solitaire. That's still cheating because it gives you an unfair advantage.
When I play Doom or Wolfenstein, I don't want to be challenged. I want to roam through an increasingly hellish landscape and blow away a variety of demons with a shotgun. That's what I want to do, and I want it to be as low effort and mindless as possible, and I don't want to be aggravated by how hard it is to beat this level and move on to the next one. There are things in my life that aggravate me that I can't do anything about. Why would I want the game that I'm playing, that I've chosen to play for fun, to aggravate me too?
Literally a skill issue. Get better at the game's mechanics.
That insight did not come easily to me. When I was a kid, I was much more of a gamer. This was back in the olden days of 8-bit gaming consoles. I had an NES. I also had a Commodore 64 computer that I used primarily for games. I loved playing video games and devoted much of my free time to it, especially during the summer when I was out of school and my friends and I could visit each other and spend all day playing. Because back then, if you wanted to play multiplayer, the other players all had to be in the same room. I don't know how we all didn't catch COVID.
Because COVID wasn't around during that time. Literally, it was originally in monkeys before it came to the actual thing. I know you probably think that it came from somewhere else, but no, it came from, well, actually, no, not monkeys. It came from bats, actually. So it wasn't a disease that was threatened to, our species until quite recently.
I have fond memories of those times, but you know what else I remember about my misspent youth as a video game player? How my Nintendo controllers would rattle when I shook them, because of all the times I flung them to the floor in frustration. Many of the games that provoked that childish reaction were among my favorites. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mega Man, assorted Castlevanias, Battletoads, goddamn motherfucking Battletoads. May the people who made you burn in hell. I liked playing all of those games, but you know what would have made me like them even more? If they weren't so fucking hard to beat that they made me whip the controller at the TV in repeated acts of impotent pre-adolescent rage.
People have broken several $1,000s worth of keyboards in video games as well. You're not special in that regard, but they still play video games because they enjoy it. Because those joyous moments of when you do actually beat the challenge are more euphoric than anything else. Speaking from not only personal experience, but from people who also actually actively play video games. So, not just my own experience.
It's no coincidence that my enjoyment of my favorite Nintendo games increased dramatically once they came out with the Game Genie, which was this cartridge that fit onto the end of the game cartridge, which you then inserted into the console, which allowed you to enter cheat codes that made the game super easy and, as a result, more fun.
For you. More fun for you. And again, not everyone decided to use things like Game Genie. I know I brought up Game Shark earlier, but they're kind of the same thing, or practically the same thing, just different companies making, again, cheat codes that literally trick the game into giving you an unfair advantage. We've already gone over this. We're skipping over this part.
Am I saying every voluntary activity I engage in, every hobby I pursue needs to be as easy as possible? No, of course not. I exercise regularly, and part of exercising, if you stick with it long term, is occasionally increasing the difficulty of your routine, adjusting your goals to keep it challenging. That's how you get better, by pushing yourself. It's not easy and it's not fun, but if you do it long enough and consistently enough, you see real benefits. You look better, you feel better, you have more energy. Hopefully, you live longer and have fewer health problems along the way. In other words, there's a reason to challenge yourself and to force yourself to endure aggravation and misery. What's the reason for doing that with a video game?
To do literally everything that you just said? To see your improvement on, say, a leaderboard that, you had to do that, to overcome a specific challenge that had been completely and utterly dogpiling you this entire time, to get that same euphoric action that actually happens when you accomplish a great challenge. Just because you change the context of how you accomplish, say, a big challenge, whether that be challenging yourself through a video game medium or challenging yourself through a real-life medium, you will increase in skill level and in skill competence when talking about this thing. Again, to bring up the 3 pillars again, literally increasing your mechanical understanding, definite W in some cases. Increasing your movement speed and your speed definitely feels very nice. And when all of those methods and things come together and the next time that you come across that same exact challenge, you refer back to the times when you had that and problems with that, then you come forward with new equipment, better gear, better understanding of the game. Doesn't that not feel like just as important as anything else? Now, I'm fairly certain after this point he starts to repeat himself. There's like 3 minutes left of this video. But I think that you get the general point here. The main thing this guy doesn't seem to understand, or doesn't even really want to understand, is the sheer fact that challenge is inevitably important to the growth of literally any skill. If you don't want to challenge yourself, that's unfortunate. If you don't want to, rise up to a challenge that you specifically set for yourself, like in a video game, then maybe you don't deserve to actually accomplish that challenge. Not saying that that's a bad thing, it's just that you definitely have different understandings of what entertainment is. And I don't think that you completely and utterly get why video games have those difficulty settings or why a person would want to challenge themselves in a hobby to get better at the hobby. It's like, say, for soldering. I'm not really into soldering. I'm not really into, say, wood carving, but my dad is. My dad's a great wood carver. He made a ball in a box thing. He made an actual wooden chain, and he's made his own utensils from a piece of wood. I don't understand how he does it, but he does. That's his hobby, and he's gotten very significantly better at it. To the point of now, he gives people some of his amazing creations, and everyone that I know loves them and cherishes them because they were handmade by him. Even myself. So yeah, what's the reason to challenge yourself in the video game? To get that euphoria and to get better at the skills and better at dealing with challenges, and also, in some cases, better at dealing with anger and your emotions. But I think that'll about do it. This video will probably be a pain to edit going forward, but overall, that's all I have to say on this matter. To be quite honest, this dude, again, just continues to repeat his points, and I might even try to cut down this video a little bit. But overall, those are my thoughts on this. If you like what it is that I do and want to support me in any way, shape, or form, links down to everything below. Again, be on the lookout for The Gamers, coming out sometime this week, hopefully, if I remember to do so, where I will gather all of the stuff there. I think it'll probably be an EP and not a full release, but I'm sure as of this right now. But other than that, I do stream on Twitch, twitch.tv/GameFriendly1. I'm trying to hit 1K subscribers by the end of the year, and thank you, I do love you. And if you've watched this far into the video, again, thank you so much for watching. I'm 100% enjoying the final Season 3. Just check out the bit part, and I think that'll leave you there. Thank you so much for watching, again, and a peace.